Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we've got a first piece of Moco content for you guys. We're going to be taking a look at the best 10 ways to farm as much XP as possible. But we've got a good understanding of Moco already after putting in about 35 hours already since release. Also, I'm level 28, really close to Elite Hunter level as well. So I've been grinding. I've got a lot of experience in the worlds, in the rifts, dojo, etc. So these tips are really going to help you out, whether you're a beginner, whether you're kind of an intermediate player as well. And I'm just on the cusp of the absolute hardcore as well. So let's just dive straight into it. The first tip is to farm as many healing stuff as possible when you're trying to just go through most of the world. So the reason why I say this is because there's a lot of projects that you can farm a lot of XP. Everybody should know this by now, but the healing abilities are by far the easiest ones to farm. So I'm talking through your passives. Your passives, you've got a couple there. You've got R&B Mixtape, which is one of the easier ones. You've got Vampire Teeth. They should just be pretty standard and some of the best passives in the game. But then you go onto your gadgets as well. Splash Heal, which isn't that good unlike rifts and other places, but when you're farming, especially, the biggest example is when you're fighting off a big boss and there's just so many of you in a death pool, you can just spam out the Splash Heal every 16 seconds and you're going to farm through your projects so quickly. I actually neglected this gadget for a very long time, and then as I got to about level 20 or something plus like that, I realized I could just do this really quickly. I think it took me less than an hour to go from the first stage to the third. It was just free XP, so do farm this, and then of course you get Revitalize and Mist a little bit later on. You got Vitamin Boost as well, but there's just so many healing things that you can just spam when you're in a big death pool, when you're fighting off against a boss. You've also got the Staff of Good Vibes as well as the weapon. I haven't actually farmed this yet, but I just know it's going to be so easy once you get to the higher world. So yeah, just farm as many healing abilities as possible because it's just free XP on those projects. Second tip, again, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's just to go around in big groups as much as possible. You probably saw this on a bunch of different videos and streams already, but it really is the best way to farm XP. The reason being is because more monsters will spawn the more people that are on the map, especially in a fine area. You're also more likely to spawn like overcharged troops, the bigger troops, just bigger swarms of troops, just more troops in general. The more troops means you're going to be killing more animals, and you don't even have to attack whatsoever when you're in the group. Of course, you want to try and help but get some more damage for your weapon projects, but just in general, if you're around a troop and they're killing enemies, it's going to count towards your project. So just farming, running around, making sure that you're staying within the pack. It's just essential to farm as much XP as possible. I tried not to do it too much when I was playing in the first few days. I thought it would be a little bit boring, but then I realized just how quickly you farm through those projects. So I think I was a little bit behind on that. But if you can't find a big group, just make sure you join in one of like really popular chat when you're playing Moco, or you can find Discord servers, or you can just add a bunch of people through your Supercell ID, or just roam around the map. Typically when I spawn into a map as well, you might think there's nobody there, but as long as you're like visiting most of the island, you probably will find a big death ball of players. So follow the group and farm as quickly as possible. Tip number 3 is to farm these events as much as possible. So what I tend to do every, I think, 4 seconds, the events refresh. I tend to just go outside of the lobby, quickly see what's about, and then go back in if already the events aren't that good. But there's a couple in general that I really enjoy. So the first one is the invasion event. So the invasion event is really good because if you get a big death ball of players and you're next to an invasion portal, they're going to spawn unlimited enemies on the map, and you're just going to farm non-stop. It's just absolute chaos. The more players, the better. So you're going to be farming those projects really quickly. So it's just self-explanatory. You're going to farm so much XP killing all of those troops. I also really like the supercharged event. I tend to do that pretty much any island. The reason being, it's probably going to give you better XP killing those bigger bosses, but I also like that just as a side thing to get as many chaos cores as possible. The bigger the supercharged boss, the more likely you're going to get more chaos cores, chaos shards, XP, etc. So I always aim for the supercharged events as much as possible because you can just farm XP and stuff so quickly. Tip number 4 is to go back and go through those rifts and dojo missions to complete them under a certain time limit. So you can do this, I believe, both in under, I think, like 3 minutes in the rifts, or even 2 minutes. That is, of course, once you get really high in your gear levels. You can get 10k XP every single time you do this. So I think it's pretty easy to get under 3 minutes as long as you're at a reasonable level. I would say probably like level 20 plus. at the early stages, of course, you just want to focus on just getting through them. But as you go through them and you level up, you realize that your gear is really powerful. If you can just team up as well with some players that are at a similar level to you, you can just go through them with ease. You don't even need to think about it. And as well, once you get to the dojos, you can do these in a really quick amount of time as well. I will say the indication when you click on one of these events, it says what it's recommended in terms of gear level. It's actually a really good indication, because once it says it's very hard to complete, I know I'm not going to really get that in a quick time. Once I start getting kind of near or above the recommended gear level, I know for sure that I can make some good strategies and I can get below the time limit. I can do a separate video on how to do this on another video. But essentially, especially in dojos, just want to make sure that you're grouping up all of the enemies as much as possible, like run around, kind of kite them towards Luna, and then use like some AoE, and you're going to be able to get a good time in the dojos. This is kind of the same in rifts as well. A lot of times I like to try and run past as many as the units as possible, try and use some AoE to burst them all down, and just get to the boss as quickly as possible. It's basically all you need to do. And if you just can't get in a quicker time, then most of the time it's just because your gear is under leveled, so you just need to farm more in worlds. But trust me, make sure you're getting that 10k XP as much as possible. I end up often overlooking it and then realizing I can just get some quick 10k XP really easily. So tip number 5 is one that often I see most players just completely ignore, unless all the players I face off, well, play with, just have already completed that project. But for the most part, especially in the earlier worlds, is make sure that you're completing all the NPC quests. So what I mean is, the earlier stages, make sure that you're protecting all of the shrines. Pretty much in every single map there's always like a character that you can walk towards and you're just going to save them. Shrines are really easy in the shrine village, but as you go on, you got to of course follow them, protect them, and make sure they get to that safe spot. But the amount of XP that you can get for this is actually pretty decent. And what often happens as well is, if you're following one of these NPC characters, you're also going to run into a lot more monsters, because of course the game wants to make it more difficult for you to try and protect them and save them. If there's nothing around the map, just follow one of those NPCs. You're going to find monsters to begin with. Also, it's a good example, like Luna, for example. You want to always run towards Luna because she's got like a really big project that I've not even done yet, which can go across every single world. You've, of course, got like merchants on other maps. You've also got researchers, where I see a lot of sniffers, or even just any green dot on the map. Just make sure you're going towards that first and foremost, because you get a lot of XP. And it's going to help you with projects in the long run. Moving on to tip number 6 is to make sure you're switching out your gear as much as possible, so you can always be running through a project. So when you're going through rifts and dojo, you want to make sure you're using the best weapons and gadgets. But for the most part, you are going to be farming, especially in the worlds. And it doesn't really matter what weapon you use, to be honest, because again, like most time, you're going to be running around in a group, so the amount of damage that you output, it doesn't really matter. So for the most part, I actually use some of my worst weapons to make sure I'm farming the projects, because I know, for example, I'm going to use like the wolf stick or techno fist or like the bow speed shot in one of the harder worlds. I'm going to make sure that I'm using some of the worse weapons, like CPU bomb, for example, like medicine ball, like the portable portal. I'm making sure I'm using these weapons to farm as much projects as possible. Also, you can just quickly go onto your gear and you can just briefly take a look. If they've got like a little flag next to them, it means that you've got a project that you need to complete on them. So that's just a quick one. Always just select them. Even again, like just go with them. It just makes complete sense. You may as well just go through as many projects as possible. I think I pretty much complete them on everything other than my weapons. But for you guys, you'll always have a project to run through. Just make sure you're doing that. And again, you can even go into your menu, go to the projects at the left, and you can sort it by completion if you really want to be sweaty. Or for the most part, I just sort it by category and just making sure that most of the things I'm doing are firstly 1 out of 3, because those are going to be your easier projects to get that 2k 2.5k XP. And then of course, once it goes to level 2, once it gets to level 3, it stops to ramp up in difficulty. So make sure you're farming 1 out of 3s first, and then 2 out of 3s, etc. And you're going to be flying through the XP. Moving on to tip number 7 is to make sure you're following the events as much as possible. So especially now, so I don't do it too much once I've reached to level 30, but as I was farming through and there was always projects available on every map, I always was seeing like my friends, they're constantly on the event maps, because that's where you're going to gain more XP. That's where you're also, in the long run, there's going to be some like overcharged things that are going to be really hard to find on a specific world, but when there's an event there, you want to make sure you're completing it for the projects, for example. And again, another reason why is because, again, most people just run towards those event worlds, so there's going to be more people, there's going to be more enemies to kill, there's going to be just so much more to farm. You're going to need to maximize the XP as much as possible, so follow these events. They're always super good. You can see if there's an event running straight away on the worlds tab. You can just scroll through, see if there's anything running. If you see nothing running, it's probably because it's on a world that you've not unlocked yet, but there's normally always one available. If there's not, there'll be another one probably in 4 minutes time, 10 minutes time, etc. So just follow the events around. It's easy XP. Now moving on to tip number 8 is to make sure you're staying on the hardest world available to you. The reason you want to do this is because the bosses, they'll be much bigger, they'll have more XP when you kill them, and you'll just get better rewards in terms of chaos scores, etc. I was definitely making this mistake for a couple of days where I was going back to like Shrine Village, for example, trying to complete some of the projects, and what I should have done really after a couple of days when I was just way too over leveled for Shrine Village, I should have only gone back to it when there was like an event, for example, so then I could do the projects and the event at the same time. Instead, I kind of wasted quite a lot of time going to the back level. It just wasn't gaining me enough XP, whilst I should have just stayed at like Castle Walls, Cave of Spirits, Summoning Grounds. Now I'm onto Sewers right now, and I'm just only playing this pretty much no matter what, unless there's an event on another world, because again, you're just going to get more XP. The bigger the boss, the bigger the rewards. It's as simple as that. So stay on the hardest world as much as you can. Moving on to tip number 9, and it's a very self-explained one, but I've really got to highlight it because for the most part, I reckon most people watching the video probably don't have the most time in the world. Like, I'm basically unemployed, so I can play as much Moco as needed because it's my job, in a sense. Well, Brawl Stars is my job, but you get what I mean. Most players won't have like 8 hours in a day to grind Moco. So what I'm saying is making sure that you're doing your daily jobs and they're not stacking up. So I think you can stack up to 10 of these daily jobs. Just make sure you're doing them. Even if you log on for like, say, 5 minutes, it really is like super fast. And an even faster way to do it is if you've got any friends online and you've got some jobs available in that world. I just join a friend. Normally they're in like a big death pool. You can just farm through the bosses or whatever you need to kill, and you can just log off. That's what I tend to do, especially in the morning, making sure that my daily jobs aren't stacking up. But it's vital. It's one of the fastest ways to level up, because you end up getting stuck in a certain level for the most part, wondering what you need to do. Or sometimes you just need to log off the game, just play the next day. Most of the time it's not worth your actual time just sitting there grinding, mindlessly killing like monsters and stuff. Just make sure that you're doing these daily jobs. It's more than enough. Final tip number 10 is to make sure you're chipping down your battle XP as much as possible and try and get it to the normal battle XP before the end of the day or before the end of your grind. The reason being is just self-explanatory. You want to get as much XP as you can. The battle XP 4 times, I think, resets every 24 hours. So if you can just grind for that as much as possible, go in the bigger worlds, as I mentioned before, go in those big death pools, you're going to be just plowing through this XP as much as possible. Of course, for the big grinders, make sure you're just wearing out the battle XP completely fully, and then you probably want to take a break from the game. Even so, I haven't been taking a break from the game. I've just been completing as many projects as possible because I want to get to the Elite Hunter program. But anyways, what I'm saying is just wear down that battle XP as much as possible, go through the worlds, farm up, and you're pretty much good to go. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, a little bit more in depth than some of the other guides I've seen, and of course me grinding a lot. I feel like this is the best way to get that XP. I don't think there's any like cheat code essentially. Of course, playing with friends is going to be a lot easier, especially if you want to get quicker times in rifts and dojos. That can definitely help you ramp up the XP pretty quickly. But for the most part, I've done this pretty much solo, and I've just made sure for the most, like, I'm always joining at least a friend that's in a big death pool group. If they're not in a death pool group, I just leave and join a new world. So yeah, that's gonna be it, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know whether you want to see more Moco content in the future in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time.